If Age of Extinction dulled my enthusiasm for the movie toys, The Last Night reignited the spark. If only just a little bit. That's not to say I'm not being selective with the range, but between other reviews and owning some of the toys themselves, this line kinda caught me off guard. A number of figures, with some exceptions, are a lot of fun, like Voyager Optimus Prime. If what I've read is true, all or most toys of this design are based on initial concept art. On top of that, I haven't seen The Last Night. Yeah, I wasn't really compelled to watch it on the big screen, fatigue and all, so this may not be entirely accurate to what's depicted in the film. I'm just grateful when they pull off a solid movie toy regardless. Going by this figure alone, Prime comes off as more powerful than his time as a Peterbilt. Not that that looked bad, but this truck feels bigger, beefier, and more stylized with several slopes instead of constant 90-degree corners and flat surfaces. The detailing is par for the course with these movie toys, including, but not limited to, the fuel tanks, grille, windshield shade, hubcaps, though they're unpainted sadly, and the treble smokestacks positioned behind the cabin as opposed to the sides like before. As for the deco, Prime's still mostly red and blue, with more flames than internet forums, done in metallic paint no less, though this new design lacks the red to orange fade on the nose that puts something of a twist on an admittedly done-to-death color scheme. Prime's two accessories store in this mode. The sword slides underneath the truck, whereas the shield plugs on the trailer hitch. Said hitch is made of kinda flimsy plastic if I'm honest, evidenced by how it flexes when you actually insert the shield, and sometimes the halves pop off during the transformation. Speaking of which, if you own any of the following, there's no denying that The Last Night Voyager, the Age of Extinction First Edition figure, and the Leader Class mold released in both lines are shell formers to varying degrees. The second in particular was notorious for practically wearing the truck on his back, and for a $60 figure, that's crazy. The Leader distributed the kibble a little more, as you can tell from the huge panels hanging off the waist and shoulders. Honestly, I'd say the Voyager has the best transformation. While all three incorporate the truck's nose into their legs, the Voyager also works in the fuel tanks and the entire rear section. You still have a backpack with the roof and side panels, but it doesn't hang so low like the other two. Prime, post Dark of the Moon, comes off as much cleaner than his design from the first three films. Gone are the cab windows on his chest and the wheels by his hips, amongst other things. If not for the smokestacks on his back and various flame patterns here and there, you'd be hard-pressed to know he turns into anything. Considering the direction they took with the transformation, they pulled this off, perhaps not with flying colours, but definitely a lot better than it had any right to be. Sure, they could have painted flames on those chest panels to better match his model, but I'm content with this. I love the silver paint too, and thank Primus it is paint instead of chrome like those before him. Don't know about you, but I tend to associate chrome with bootleg or knockoff toys. Depending on how it's implemented, it can either be effective at giving a metallic vibe, or look incredibly garish and tacky. Two things I wish were done in metallic paint though are his sword and shield. That would be sweet. Then again, San Diego Comic-Con. They're not bad accessories otherwise. The shield can be handheld or mounted on either forearm. As for the sword, Prime's arms sadly aren't long enough to pull off his Dinobot recruitment stats from the last film, but he still has 18 points of articulation for a fair number of combat poses. Though the smokestacks get in the way, he can just about reach his sword when stored in the sheath behind him. For what it's worth, 2010 Battle Blades Prime, which I covered years ago, has more impressive engineering, what with his incredible movie accuracy on top of working in the matrix of leadership. However, this is pretty faithful to the post-Dark of the Moon design, and despite being a shell former, the actual vehicle to robot conversion and back is quite fluid and not all that frustrating. Combined with decent posability and weapons, I'd actually recommend this more in terms of ease of play, providing you aren't sick of movie Prime toys at this point.